have people here for the live event, so thank you. All right, so I'm just going to share the screen. You'll still see my head come up as a little avatar in the corner. There we go. And so you should be able to see that first slide now. Jen, do you mind just confirming, love, that everyone can see that by sending me a Skype message, and I'll check it on my phone. I just want to make sure all the tech aspects are happening before I start talking, or there'll be no tomorrow. I mean, you know, you'll miss it completely. And recording, great. Good, all good. Thanks, love. Okie doke. So welcome to the Inner Goddess free webinar. It's lovely to have you joining me wherever you are around the planet. Good morning to those of you that have just woken up, and good evening to those of you that are getting ready to retire for the night. I really appreciate the effort that you've made, regardless of your time zone, to be here. And to those of you watching the video recording, well done on making the time. So let's get started. I'm your host, Tanishka. You might know me as the Moon Woman. I have a daily blog where I share lunar intuitive guidance to help people live in tune with the lunar cycle, to help balance emotions, moods and energy levels, and create more harmonious interpersonal relationships. So let's get started. What does it mean to be a goddess? Well, if you look up the dictionary, you will see currently it has that a goddess is, you know, a very beautiful woman or a mythic creature. Now, this does a great injustice to what really is a goddess. First of all, it has nothing to do with your appearance. So despite all the ad campaigns, you know, selling every type of, you know, beauty cream and elixir known to man, this is not what makes a woman a goddess. And equally, a goddess is not a figment of our imagination. She does exist. The ancient civilizations that were extraordinarily advanced in their esoteric understandings, such as those of ancient Egypt, India, and Mesopotamia, all initiated women into priestess teachings and practices to awaken the goddess within. So that's what we're going to be exploring today in this webinar, the process. Because in our modern day culture, we've lost connection with ancient wisdom. And so understandably, a lot of people think that today a goddess is some kind of perfect woman. And this puts us in our heads trying to attain some unrealistic ideal of womanhood, which is more damaging than helpful. So what's being sold to us as a goddess is a woman who is some sort of icon of sexual desire. In other words, she's a projection of every man's fantasy. And this is a glamour in the true sense of the word. A glamour is a lie. And this mindset is what leads women to package themselves as a commodity, to sell their sexual essence in exchange for love, approval, a new kitchen, whatever. But, you know, this is an extension of the patriarchal culture that sees women as something to be bought and sold, owned, possessed, or exchanged and bartered, or even enslaved. And so as women, it's important we don't perpetuate this mindset by treating ourselves as a commodity, because this is what truly undermines our worth and our power. And we are the role models for all the young women that are walking in our footsteps. So currently in our predatory and unconscious culture, we see a lot of young women indulging in quite dangerous behavior by packaging what they think are their best assets and then trying to allure seductively, love and approval from strangers. And this is something which, as a mum, I'm very, very concerned about, as I'm sure a lot of you are, regardless of whether you're mothers or not. We are all mothers, if you will, of the next generation, regardless of our biological motherhood status. In Indigenous cultures, every woman between 30 and 60 was afforded the title of mother, because it was understood that it does take the village to raise the child. So, we share this responsibility of, honouring ourselves as divine beings, having a human experience, as role models for future generations of young women, as well as for our own well-being. Because the truth is, being a goddess has nothing to do with being perfect. Goddesses have always come in all shapes and all sizes. Here we see figurines that have been dug up from as far back as 30,000 BC. So these are known as Venus figurines. So these, as you'll see from their pendulous breasts, their sagging belly fat, these are elder women. These are crones, women who were revered as goddess for their cyclic wisdom, because they had journeyed through the cycles and only through their experience truly understood. So they were revered as beacons of understanding for those younger women to seek out for their insight, to help pierce the darkness of confusion. They were also revered for their psychic power, which develops through the internal practice of going within, through our cycles, through our menstruation time. So by the time we hit moon pause and our cycles became energetic, we were revered as wise woman goddesses. So in a patriarchal culture, one is revered typically as a goddess for her sexual allure as a maiden, less so for her ability to bring forth heirs in the mother phase, and then not at all in the elder woman phase. In the ancient cultures, women were revered as goddesses in all of their life stages. So women of all ages are goddesses. This is important. We don't stop being goddesses. We don't become invisible, meaningless, worthless. Women of all cultures are goddesses, not just the Aryan ideal that is sold to the entire world, the blonde, blue-eyed Anglo-Saxon woman, Barbie, if you will. Women of every single culture are equally divine, regardless of your skin type, regardless of your hair type. You know, when you go to countries like Bali, the same companies that are selling you skin whitening products are the same companies here in the Western countries like Australia and America and New Zealand and Canada that are selling us products to darken and tan our skin in order to be goddesses. So, you know, whatever we are, they're pitching to us we need to be something other than our natural selves to be goddesses. Women of all colour are goddesses. So what makes a woman a goddess? A goddess is a woman who has awakened her divine feminine essence. This is something within us. It is not about our external appearance. We live in a culture that only values what it can perceive through the 5 earthly physical senses, what it can taste, touch, smell, hear. I can't think what the 5th one is. It's the first day of my period, so forgive me if my rational faculties aren't completely sharp today. Point being, women, where we are strongest, the gifts that we have are often unseen because the feminine is the inner self. So being a goddess It is something which happens deep within us, within our energy field, that literally turns a light on so that we glow. This is what was said to be the goddess Aphrodite's beauty secret, that she had this golden glow about her. So how do we get that golden glow? Come with me. By raising our Kundalini or Shakti energy. Now, if you haven't heard those terms before, Kundalini is the bioelectricity within our bodies. It's also called Shakti, which is the Hindu term for the goddess. It is within all of us. It is the life force within us. You might have, heard it referred to as the Force in Star Wars. It's one and the same, whether you know it as Qi from the traditional Chinese tradition, or Prana, or Shakti. It lies dormant, coiled 2.5 times around our base energy center, located within the base of our spine until it's awakened. Kundalini is very powerful. So we need to raise this energy step by step. This helps us to avoid a healing crisis known as Kundalini emergence. This, if you take nothing away from this webinar except this point, this is of utmost importance. The reason is the Kundalini is awakening on the planet, within the earth, as a catalyst to wake us up to our true creative power as sacred sovereign beings. So it is dangerous to, for instance, go to a rave or a festival and take drugs and be ungrounded and then do, a Shakti practice like a chakra dance and awaken that energy, because if it's not grounded, we can experience psychosis. So we must respect this energy. If you were to think of ungrounded electrical energy, if there was a live wire flying around that was not grounded into the earth, that could electrocute someone. So too, we have to be equally careful to raise this energy step by step up through each of the substations within our own central nervous system. So this means that as we recalibrate it into each center, we are processing it, integrating it consciously and energetically, so that we are preparing our nervous system step by step. Then it becomes an empowering experience rather than a disempowering one. So this is the electrical energy that animates us. So we must ground. Now, when it is awakened within us, we feel more alive, because this energy doesn't just run up through the central channel, up through the 7 chakras. It flows through all the energy meridians in our light body, in our energy field. Now, these nadis, you can see an image on your screen of somebody's light body. It is comprised of over 72,000 of these electrical currents that run through our body. This is what, acupuncture is based on. Even modern science has now proven that we are all comprised of yin and yang channels of energy, so feminine and masculine currents of energy. This is something that ancient healing modalities such as Ayurveda in India and traditional Chinese medicine have known for thousands of years. When these energy, the flow of the natural life force is running through these nadis, we are well. When we purify the nadis, then they can flow freely. When we get a blockage in these sort of astral tubes, they're like, phosphorescent, light bulbs. And when we get a block in them and it builds up, when it becomes chronic, this is when we experience physical or mental dis-ease within the mental body, or within the emotional body, or within the physical body. So yogic exercises help in a similar way that acupuncture does to purify the flow of energy in these nadis and to strengthen them so that we are truly vibrant and healthy. So the chakras, this is a term that you've probably heard. In the last 20 years, particularly in the West, it's become more and more commonplace to use this ancient Hindu term, which means wheel of light. These are the vortices where a lot of these nadis intersect within our light body, up and down our central channel. Now, collectively, they're often referred to as the rainbow bridge. And I found it interesting that as a child, I loved the song that Kermit the Frog sang at the beginning of the Muppet movie, which was the Rainbow Connection. Similarly, Dorothy understands she's got a journey across the rainbow if she wants to experience, a truly magical existence. So too, this is something that we know within our soul, that we must activate the rainbow bridge, which is opening each one of these wheels of light that form the rainbow bridge and are known as chakras, if we want to activate our full human potential. So each one of these energy centers, they were known as the eyes of God, because when you open each one of these wheels of light, you open to a new dimension of seeing and perceiving and understanding. So you literally raise your awareness, you raise your consciousness, and you become a multi-dimensional being. So this is, if you will, the esoteric science behind becoming self-realized or self-actualization, becoming truly self-aware. So there are three major nadis that run from the base chakra located at the bottom of our spines all the way up to the third eye where they meet, where these inner serpents of light bow and create the inner marriage. You'll see on screen their names. Sushumna is the central pillar. Now, Sushumna, when this central pillar is fully open, that's when we experience clear intuition. All right, this is the meridian through which we receive downloads of information from our innate universal intelligence down into the heart. It's like it strikes a bell. This is known as gnosis or inner knowing, but it is when we receive information faster than the speed of light. And it is, when we sort of are working like a high processing computer, we're not having to just use the 10% rational mind to figure everything out using rational analysis of the available data. We are receiving all the information in less than a split second. And modern day scientists such as Bruce Lipton have proven that this is a more reliable source of information than the 10% rational mind. So it's, there are so many benefits to activating this central channel of Sushumna. Now you'll see coiled around Sushumna are these two beautiful meridians. One is the feminine principle, Ida, who is the lunar light of the feminine awareness, the sacred feminine meridian. The other is Pingala, the solar masculine meridian of energy. So you'll see here a symbol that you probably recognize. This is called the caduceus. And this is the symbol that has been appropriated by modern day medicine. It is a very ancient esoteric symbol because it represents wholeness and healing. When we are whole, when we have activated these meridians of masculine, feminine energy, sacred feminine, masculine energy, we are whole and therefore holy. We have awakened our true divine presence clothed in a human form. So, we're goddesses or gods in L plates, in learner plates, in training. And this means that we awaken a lot of our divine gifts, our genius, so to speak, so that we can be a vessel to anchor heaven on earth. We can be a divine channel to serve. So this is the symbol that you will see also on ambulances. So the reason for that, again, harks back to this ancient understanding that if one tried to raise this energy without supervision, without a carefully considered and prepared step-by-step process, one could experience a healing crisis and need intervention and emergency from an emergence of energy that was too hot to handle, too much too soon. So when both of these meridians are activated, we feel balanced. These meridians, the way that we open the flow of Kundalini up through these meridians and we raise these meridians is by expressing the feminine and masculine energies in each one of our 7 chakras or wheels of light. So a goddess or a god, let's start with a goddess. A goddess is a woman who has awakened both of her channels of serpent power, as it was also known. A god is a man who has awakened both of his channels to awaken his serpent power. So it's important that we honor the physical gender that our soul, in its innate intelligence, chose for us to incarnate into, because we understood this was the foundation gender that we wanted to heal. We may have had lifetimes of trying to disassociate from this gender or finding this gender very challenging. So we went, right, if I incarnate into this physical gender, then I'm going to have to deal with it. So I also, in my knowing, feel very strongly that if we chose, for instance, to incarnate into a female physical body, we have put our hands up to help heal the feminine in the collective primarily. So too, if we've chosen to incarnate into a male body, we're putting up our hand to help heal the collective masculine. But we all are comprised of feminine, masculine energy within us. So we start the journey by empowering the feminine energy up through the 7 chakras if we've incarnated into a female form. If we've incarnated into a male form, we start by activating the masculine energy up through our 7 chakras. When we've done that, then we activate the complement, the divine complement within, the twin flame within, by activating the opposite gender up through the 7 chakras so that we're feeling whole. When we do this, some of the results that we feel are increased vitality, because we literally have activated more life force up through all of our 72,000 nadis. So we experience greater longevity. We age well, okay, rather than, aging before our time, so to speak. So we enjoy more quality of life. This is not about resisting aging. It's not about anti-aging. It's about aging well. We activate more creativity. Women that have done, Kundalini activation with me over the last 20 years, they experience incredible surges of renewed creativity, which gets expressed in all manner of ways, because when we activate Kundalini, it is the creative life force. So then it wants to be expressed. So we have, so much inspiration. The word inspiration means in spirit. We have so much divine energy just flowing through us. We have loads of divine ideas. We also experience enhanced fertility. Okay, so if our energy is not optimal, we don't have as much energy to procreate the species. So we're seeing well, here in Australia, 1 in 6 couples are now experiencing infertility. So, this is, like a flag saying, we've forgotten how to activate our life force and how to maintain our life force by honoring our Kundalini. We also will experience greater libido. So if you've been feeling a little bit flat on that, level, then doing this process will get your mojo happening, so to speak, to quote Austin Powers. And it also activates our charisma. People who have awakened Kundalini, they attract people to them because they have that glow about them that I mentioned that Aphrodite was famous for. So, their auric field is strong. So that means that they are less likely to experience, entity attack, which is something in our Western culture that we are completely in denial about. But just as you can catch, a virus, which is an imposing entity on our physical level, we can experience that on an energetic level as well. So if our energy field is strong, we have less chance of that. But also, the stronger our life force is, the more we increase our magnetism. All right. And the feminine energy is magnetic. Okay. That's how feminine energy moves. Okay. Like this, it draws to us. So by focusing on the inner, by strengthening the inner self, we actually find that we manifest with grace, that we attract what we need as a reflection of what we're giving to ourselves, rather than being, in the masculine polarity where we're out trying to make it happen externally by doing things harder rather than smarter, trying to make things happen in the physical and just using the rational mind. Raising our Kundalini also raises our personal awareness. So in other words, as we become aware of these divine aspects at each one of the 7 gates or chakras, we become more aware of our strengths, more aware of our gifts, so that influences and empowers our life choices. So we experience greater personal power. We don't feel as, intimidated by others that have a great light. We see ourselves as equal to them. We know that we are all potential gods and goddesses. So this is why we have been fed doctrines that have told the mass populace to fear serpents. Why? Well, the serpents of consciousness, when they rise, guess what happens? The people rise. We stand in our power. We cannot be intimidated through fear. We cannot be dominated. The empires that rose during the age of Aries, which, for those that want to know more about those astrological ages, that's something I speak about in more depth in my latest book, Goddess Wisdom, which you can get readily. It's published by Hay House, so available through all booksellers online as well as in bookstores. But yeah, if during what happened when the empires rose, they understood that they could, by stamping out ancient feminine wisdom teachings and traditions, which they did, it was punishable by death if you taught or practiced or studied ancient women's wisdom teachings and practices such as this. That then people could be divided and conquered. All right. So, this is a form of spiritual activism, taking back our sacred and sovereign birthright to know how to raise our full creative potential as spiritual beings having a human experience. So it's a very exciting time to be on the planet, because as these teachings return, as we raise our personal power in service to the greater good, we play a very important part in restoring the balance on the globe. So how do we awaken our serpentine meridians of life force? Well, through spiritual initiation into ancient teachings and practices. Now, specifically, that involves empowering, understanding, expressing the 7 aspects of our feminine psyche. And then once we've done that, our masculine. So we can see this image here on the screen. This is somebody who has activated these energies at each one by empowering the 7 facets of our feminine psyche. So let's meet these 7 goddesses that govern the chakras. First of all, there's the wild woman. Okay, so regardless of your skin tone, we've all got an inner wild woman. And if we don't, well, she's there, she's just dormant. So once we understand her, we understand how to express her in an empowered way, in a creative, positive way. We don't suppress her. We don't fear her coming out. We don't fear being rejected for being uncouth. And a woman who has rejected her primal, wild woman is not able to access her life force. So she's got very little energy, or she has problems expressing anger. She often has painful menses, so menstruation. Often women, have been raised as little girls to think that anger made us unacceptable. That we wouldn't be loved if we threw tantrums, that it was more acceptable for us to cry than to get angry. And this means that women are more likely to feel depressed because they can't access their anger. And that's something that I feel very passionate about, because women are more likely to stay in abusive situations if they can't access anger. Anger is a very important emotion. It's like a red warning light going off. Hey, a boundary's being crossed. We need to take appropriate action. So it's empowering for women to learn how to access and utilize anger in a creative and safe way. And that's something we learn through empowering our wild woman archetype. The next archetype that we learn to empower and express is the beautiful muse. You might know her as Aphrodite. I'm just going to take a drink to keep my throat lubricated so I don't end up hoarse by the end. So the beautiful muse is the part of us who is the maiden, the lover, the artist. She's sensual, she's playful. And, if we grew up with that part of us being validated, being encouraged, if we had a mother that also embodied this archetype in a positive way, then chances are we've learnt to embody that in a positive way. But if she's been embodied in a negative way, then we don't feel beautiful inside and out. We often feel like we need to be thinner, or we need to look younger, or we compare ourselves with other women, whether that's women in the commercials or in movies or in video clips, or whether that's women in our life, you know, and we either unconsciously or consciously put them down in our thoughts in order to bolster a sense of our own beauty, or even verbally, you know. You see a lot of unconscious, you know, sort of women in sort of Facebook forums, you know, that, or even, you know, women's magazines, gossip magazines, putting each other down, or in reality television shows as well, like The Bachelor, Bachelorette, that sort of thing. So, you know, to empower this aspect means that we're not going to behave like a mean girl. We're not going to behave like, you know, a badly behaved teenager, which can happen at any age. Women in their 50s and 60s can behave like this if this aspect is not empowered. So, you know, this is when we can really see how we are naturally beautiful, that our curves are like no other woman, so that we are beyond comparison. So this is a very important lesson. There's other big lessons to learn around unrequited love, and also once this aspect is truly empowered, we're less likely to comfort eat and to abuse sensual pleasures. So another great archetype to learn how to empower, so we experience more joy, more play, and we feel a sense of innocence again. So the next archetype that we need to learn to empower is the golden heroine. Sounds a bit like a Vietnamese drug triad, but that's a term that I've given her. You might know her as Athena in the Greek pantheon, or she's often shown as having two faces, you know, Medusa, because this is the archetype of the career woman. And if she's disempowered, we don't see our talents, our skills, our gifts. So we often idolize others, put them on a pedestal, and we might even plagiarize their work or try and emulate them, or, you know, try and study lots of different things in order to feel good enough. And it's never enough degrees, never enough qualifications. And this is because the solar plexus energy is shrouded. This is like our inner sun. So when she feels truly empowered, we have strong self-esteem. We don't compare what we create with others. We're happy to celebrate the achievements of others, and we really honor and acknowledge and see our own talents and celebrate our own milestones of success. So we also understand that our careers don't define our identity, that we are not the sum of our beliefs. Okay, so we don't get into heated arguments about what we believe and who is right. So this is a wonderful archetype to empower and embody in a positive way, so that our mind is our own, so that we don't just believe everything our teacher says, or everything that a group mind or a doctrine tells us, or even science. A lot of people, that's become the new fundamental religion. Well, if science says it, it's true. You know, science is being proved wrong every day, because we are understanding more and more, so it's always being updated. So you know, it's based on sort of hypotheses. So it's important we learn to know our own mind, and that's something we learn through empowering this archetype. It's also how we heal our father issues. So the next archetype is the one that sits in a heart chakra. This is the inner nurturer, the inner mother. So regardless of whether we have children or not, we need this archetype to be functioning well for us to function well. Okay, so for us to have good self-care, for us to be self-loving in our choices, for us to be connected to our feelings and to be able to act upon those, to be able to find an equal balance between giving and receiving so we don't burn out. We need this archetype functioning in a well and conscious way. Women who don't have this archetype functioning well often get sick. So they'll give and give and give until they get sick. Or they won't be able to effectively discipline their children, and their children will run them ragged like a doormat, or their partner will treat them like a mother. So it's very important, for our health, for our well-being, to really understand how to empower this archetype. This one is why we have a pandemic of, breast cancer in particular, women overgiving, because it's what's expected in a patriarchal culture. If we look at every single country around the world, the expectation that women will do more unpaid domestic work, including child rearing, there's a huge discrepancy in every country. So then we internalize that, we expect it of ourselves. So this is absolutely crucial that we empower this for our own social sustainability. So this is about learning to give birth to our creative ideas, as well as, how to gestate, birth, nurture a creative project, or to caretake animals or our plants. It's not just about physical children or the greater community or the elderly. We all have a mother phase that we journey through chronologically as well. So, during a certain moon phase and a certain season, these archetypes also get called forth. So it's important we know how to express them in a balanced way during those times of the month and the year. Next, we have the Amazon. So this is, the huntress. You might know her as Artemis. It's kind of like the inner Wonder Woman. So this is the part of us who finds our independence, finds our voice to be able to speak up on our own behalf and to be in alignment, our inner self and our external self, so that, there's no discrepancy in the life that we're living and who we truly are inside. If there is a discrepancy, we will get ill. So this corresponds to midlife. So a lot of women in their 40s, that's when, they'll often battle an illness in order to really empower this archetype. But if we learn how to empower this archetype, we don't need to manifest illness. So this archetype is about learning to trust ourselves, because when we really trust ourselves, then we can trust others, because we know how to set appropriate boundaries based on monitoring our inner self, our inner feelings. So when women empower this, we activate our second maidenhood, but in a more empowered way than when we were younger. So it's kind of like there's nothing we can't do. So a very exciting archetype to empower. And it's also the archetype of sisterhood. So women that are afraid of sisterhood, they might have been excluded, bullied in their younger years. This is a very powerful archetype to reclaim so that you can enjoy the support of sisterhood, because sisterly love is one of the ways that we fill our cup and we stay full so that we don't, run on empty. Next, we meet the mystic. Now, this is the archetype that governs the third eye. And this, we all have an inner mystic. We all have the ability to be clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, intuitive, prophetic. It's just through awakening these gifts and opening this energy center. So in our patriarchal culture, a lot of people are interested in the esoteric, but they don't dare let it show. They're in the mystic closet. So if that is the case, they end up shutting the third eye down, and when it really opens for women in their elder years, they can experience senility. So it's very important that we learn how to empower these subtle sense gifts, and that we don't shut this down, so that we can utilize this as a guiding light. You know, these subtle senses are the best way women have to protect themselves, rather than using physical brute force. Learning to perceive through our subtle senses so that we can navigate our way through the unknowable. This is also an archetype that we need to embody if we're going to age gracefully, and to open up the inner realms and find aging an exciting prospect, rather than just focusing on the physical, which sort of is inevitable that it will atrophy in time. If we're only focusing on the external, we fear aging. We see it as something depressing, rather than opening up the inner realms and opening up to the great mystery of life. And finally, we meet the Tantrika. This is the archetype of, you know, the high priestess, the yogini that governs the crown chakra. So when she is functioning well, we have a series of spiritual practices to maintain our Kundalini, our life force, and we honor our temple, our body, as the vessel that houses our spirit. So this is not just a daily practice, but understanding the lunar phases, we have weekly practices. Understanding the seasons, we have seasonal practices. You know, we have monthly practices. So, you know, our mundane routines become sacred rituals. So this is how we honor all 7 archetypes. This is the part of us that understands we are the rainbow bridge. And when this aspect is activated, we start living heaven on earth. We start living a divine life, rather than, you know, a life of stress and struggle. This becomes a life where we understand we are creating our reality through our subconscious thoughts. So we're taking full responsibility for ourselves as sacred, sovereign, creator beings. So an exciting journey. When all are expressed, like the rainbow goddess Iris or Ishtar, we are whole. We are that bridge between the inner, what is unseen, the spirit realm, and the outer, what is the material realm. We can go between the two, like the infinity symbol. And we feel like a queen. So we don't feel like a princess, someone who's trying to please everybody else and be perfect in all the roles that we play, like perfect wife, perfect lover, perfect mother, perfect boss, perfect student, you name it, perfect best friend, you know, always whooping ourselves with grief and, guilt for not being good enough. This is when we are directed by the inner self, rather than trying to construct a persona based on who we think everyone else wants us to be, which is tiring, which is an absolute recipe for burnout and mental illness, for anxiety and depression. So, whilst you will continue to see pop quizzes everywhere saying, do these quick 7 questions to find out which Greek goddess are you, doing a quick quiz will not make you a goddess, but also you're not one goddess. You are potentially the sum of all of these 7 main archetypes. You know, in all the indigenous cultures, they had myths for each one of these 7 archetypes. They were similar myths because they're archetypal. They sit within the subconscious, the 90% mind. And so, you know, whilst they had different names, they're the same aspects. So you are not one goddess, okay? You are not a one-dimensional woman. You will see books, Facebook pages, apps that glorify one goddess archetype, like the wild woman goddess or the warrior goddess, but you are more than that. That is not balanced. For our goddess essence to flow up through all of the 7 energy gates, like this beautiful image here of one who has awakened her inner cobra, so that the energy in the top lotus of 1,000 petals at the crown flowers. We do that by, raising the energy, activating the energy for the crown to fully open, and by being grounded, by having those roots from the base going all the way into the heart of the Earth Mother, into her energy. Like this image here. So we need to learn how to empower and balance all 7 of these inner goddesses, because they each govern these energetic bodies around us, okay, that comprise the full auric field within us. This is what it takes for us to really flower on all levels of our being. This is not something new. This is not new age. The new age is the old age. It's, the wheel is turning, and we're remembering these very, very ancient sacred practices and traditions. So in the ancient world, women would unveil each facet of their feminine psyche, like this illustration here of a woman unveiling her divine goddess. We are in the time of revelations, and for a lot of people that is terrifying, because they see it as the end of the world, the beginning of the end of days. Well, the word revelation comes from the Latin revelatio. It means to reveal the truth. The ancients knew this, and the goddess was honored for her role. It was her role to unveil the truth, our true nature, which is divine. That is what's happening on the planet. We are returning to the sacred. So what would happen on the day of the great rite, on the spring equinox, these women that had done this journey over 7 months to unveil their 7 divine feminine archetypes would then perform the dance of the 7 veils to symbolically celebrate as a ritual dance that they had unveiled their inner goddess in all her facets. And they would be received with cheers, with great celebration. Everyone would take the day off work and line the streets with a huge processional. It was considered so important because they understood that doing this helped to keep the divine consciousness alive in the collective populace. So it was revered, the women that would go to the temples, go to the mystery schools, and to do this 7-month journey. These were the sacred women. They could still marry. It wasn't that like they were nuns, but it symbolized they had unveiled all 7 facets of their soul. So they weren't just an ego, somebody who was, like a child, always looking at what they can get from a situation, how they can use a situation to their advantage. Someone who has the soul in the driver's seat. They see the shadow very clearly in others because they have seen the shadow in themselves at all 7 gates, and we're all a reflection of each other. So they are awake and they are serving the divine rather than the small self. And this signifies someone who has done this journey, this initiation journey, is ready for the great rite of sacred marriage, which was then celebrated at the next gate of Beltane around the seasonal wheel. And again, I explain those in some detail in the Goddess Wisdom book, and then in more detail in the Sacred Union books that I've written. So, if we are wanting to have a relationship that is a soulmate union where someone can truly see our soul, guess what? We have to unveil our soul to ourselves first. We have to know our soul in order then to be seen, for our beloved to see our soul. We have to unveil it. So that means that when we do this journey of unveiling the divine at our 7 chakras, we have made the commitment to honor our divine self at the 7 gates and to only enter into unions with someone who's capable of seeing all of our 7 aspects and honoring them. This is what a truly sacred union is. So it means that when we connect at every gate with our beloved, the sex is sublime because it's about the dance of our inner light serpents, okay? All of our facets are met, understood, seen, celebrated, and honored. And this is where our modern day custom of unveiling the bride comes from. We've kept the material custom but forgotten the meaning. Our modern day rituals are empty, okay? So we end up with bridezillas trying to make the perfect day about the flowers and the dress and whatever, because we've lost the sacred meaning of what it is to enter into that threshold of sacred union. Here we have the ruins from the oracle at Delphi. And Delphi is in Greece. And in the ancient world, people would go to Delphi to do this initiation journey. And inscribed still today, you can see on the stone, it says, "Know thyself," just 2 words. That is what was most prized and valued in the ancient priestess tradition, to go within, to take that inner descent journey, to meet all the aspects of oneself. Because unless one knows thyself, you are afraid to commit to anything, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's to, purchasing a house. If we don't know ourselves, we don't know every single facet of why it is we're motivated to do something. So we second guess ourselves and we're more likely to be, manipulated by others. A woman who knows herself is self-assured. She is directed by her own heart, by her own innate wisdom, so she can fulfill her potential in all the areas of her life that the 7 chakras govern. When we unveil all 7 aspects of our divine feminine expression, we unveil our true self. We're free. And this is what activates the diamond blueprint of our soul. We are multifaceted. The light can be refracted out of all the chakras so that we shine through all the facets of our soul like a diamond. We literally shine brighter. And this practice was reduced to just buying a diamond ring as a token of the sacred union, rather than us becoming the diamond. This is why our divorce rates are at 50%. We are the diamond in the rough, okay? So when we're not clear, okay, when we don't understand our motivations, when we don't see all the divine aspects, all the shadow aspects of ourselves, we're like a piece of coal, we are base, we are heavy. So we have to begin this process of inner alchemy to become crystal clear. So our challenge is to transform our shadow, what is unseen, unknown about ourselves, into the light of awareness, the light of understanding at each one of these chakras, each one of these gates. And this is how we make that shift from princess to queen. This sacred feminine power has been dormant on our planet, and we can see the repercussions of that. There is a deep soul sickness on our planet in every sense. Yeah, we have like a cancerous growth of the shadow eating life out from the inside. So it's time for us to wake up this inner light and restore the sacred balance on our planet through understanding we are each a fractal. The microcosm is reflected in the macrocosm. If we activate this within us, we help restore Eden our earth as the beautiful divine being that she is. Our stellar friends have been urging us to do this through beautiful sacred art that they have been placing along the meridians of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, which the names got changed to the Michael Mary line when they were Christianized. But in the ancient world, they were acknowledged as, the twin serpents of sacred feminine, sacred masculine energy that carry that consciousness around the globe. And that's why our stellar friends have been putting those symbols, the Arcturians, along those earth meridians in the unity grid to wake us up. So it is time to awaken our goddess power. I ask, are you ready to receive this as initiation? A lot of you will have done this in ancient times. This will be in a sense of opening up a remembrance of these codes which have lain dormant within your soul memory. So this is an opportunity to accelerate your full feminine potential. And what's exciting is if we get enough, it acts as a 100th monkey, activating the critical mass in the unity field, in enough people. So I offer 2 step-by-step programs to help activate Shakti in women that are seeking this initiation. The first is an online program, and the next course is starting very, very soon. So I time these deliberately to coincide with the equinox because, it's understood that Mother Nature is initiating us. So when we work with her seasonal chakras, with her seasonal vortices, that really helps us to activate these energies. So we journey for one chakra, for 1 month, but one chakra at a time. So in doing that, it's very thorough. The first 2 weeks, what happens is the shadow comes up. So the stuff that you didn't even know that you were doing to express that archetype in perhaps a dysfunctional way, in a negative way, in a way that creates self-sabotaging thoughts and behaviors. And then, so we start around the new moon, and then at full moon, we get the illumination into, oh gosh, I see how I'm doing that. And then the next 2 weeks, we integrate the strengths of that archetype. And then that process we do for a full lunar month, because women are cyclic. We shed our inner uterine lining if we're still fertile. If not, we continue that process energetically, but we journey as a monthly being. So at the end of the month, the energy naturally is ready to move up to the next chakra, the next gate. And each one of these aspects complements the other. So as we refine the energies, we become if we operate just out of one, if 1 or 2 archetypes are dominant, they can be out of balance, they can be overbearing, they become our signature goddesses, our go-to goddesses. But when we add the positive expression of all 7, they act as a counterpoint to each other. So some will soften, some will strengthen. But this process, it helps to clear the blocks in your 7 energy centers so that then clears blocks in the nadis. These blocks energetically are what inhibit the full expression of your divine self. So what this course includes, you get like a textbook, all right? This is the first book that I wrote. This is the revised edition, which will be posted out to you. And you'll receive this as a paperback it's a big book, because it's a workbook to work through. So in that book is the myth of each goddess, as well as the psychological profile, how she plays out in relationships, different sort of processes you can do, like journal writing processes and exercises to empower her. There's fun things you can do to empower her as well as even, the sort of clothes she likes, the coloured foods to eat, the landscapes to go to. So it's very experiential. It's a shamanic journey. And it's also written with a sense of humour so that it's not a dry and boring journey. So you will also receive, to do at the beginning of the course, an inner journey to go in and identify which one of those 7 goddesses is likely to be the most challenging month for you, so that you know ahead of time, okay, in that month, just don't overload your schedule with a lot of external responsibilities, because that's when stuff's likely to come up, and it's a good time to make the space for that, to book in some, additional healings. I encourage the women to also book at least one healing every month with a trusted energy healer that has become known to them through referral to support this journey. You'll also have included a guided meditation to do at the beginning of each month, coinciding with the new moon, to meet each goddess. Ideally before you start reading about them, okay, so that you are going in not knowing anything. If you already know a bit about the goddesses, that's fine. But this way, when you receive a gift and when you receive guidance from that goddess, you're not going to second guess it and go, oh, but I read about that. It's amazing when you receive that through, this guided journey, and then you look it up and you're like, oh my God, I got the symbols for this goddess. And you're like, okay, I'm starting to believe there's something, magic is afoot, so to speak, in the synchronicities. So there's also video tutorials where I speak about some of the things that might come up for you in that month and how to work with those issues so that you really are empowering each archetype and blessing the situations that come up. What's so incredible about this journey is that you will be initiated. These goddesses are going to play out in your life through catalysts. So, the magic is what happens day to day through you experiencing these archetypes coming to life. So in the course, there's also magazine style articles. So you can, if you prefer, to just download these and create like a course folder. I encourage you to get off screen as much as you can. I'm just going to suck on this to lubricate my throat. I'm starting to get dry. So that you can read these articles in a way that there's no EMFs, no electromagnetic pollution frequencies, and read them in the bath or read them in bed, so that your intuition is clear to sort of read between the lines and receive downloads from, the sort of the synapses firing and making connections from your own experiences. So, whilst it's an online course, these materials are designed to help get you offline to enjoy them as much as possible. You'll also get shipped to your address these 7 auric sprays. Now, I personally create these in circle with some of my local sisters. And what these are made from, there are 7 essential oil blends. So for each one of these, I was guided to make these when I started initiating women through this journey many, many, many years ago. And what I would do is I would go into a trance state, invoke each one of the goddesses separately, and ask her which essential oil she wanted in her blend. And then she would lead me through drop by drop to get the bass, the middle and the treble note of the essential oil recipe, so that this could be used to help evoke the strengths of this particular goddess. Then I was also guided to make crystal essences. So to do that, I was told which crystals And I might add that when I looked up the properties of the essential oils and the crystals, they were bang on for, the issues for each one of these chakra goddesses. So I make up crystal grids using sacred geometry and then coloured silk so that the solar and lunar light infuses the elixir. Silk is, the highest vibrational fabric on the planet. It's what is ideal to meditate in. So we're using colour therapy, we're using sound therapy. So I intone the Sanskrit mantra, which for those that are familiar with the work of Dr. Emoto, whatever we intone into a liquid, be it essential oil, be it water, the water molecules or the oil molecules, they arrange themselves to form a pattern, a template. So if it's a positive intention that's imbued, they create beautiful mandalas like snowflakes. Whereas if it's a dissonant, negative frequency that's being intoned, they refract in a way that's discordant. So what I've done is I've used the Sanskrit tones to restore wholeness and healing to that chakra, that energy center. And then I've also enchanted the elixir using chant, using sacred sound to intone the positive traits of each one of these goddesses. So they're kind of like a healing in a bottle. So what you do with them each day for the month that you're journeying with that goddess, you're going to spray that through your energy field before you do your morning, mudra, mantra, yoga practice. And then you can use them as needed as a spritzer. They last a very long time, and they're beautiful. You'll feel this as the droplets cascade through your energy field. You'll feel a heightening as the presence of that goddess really anchors within your energy field. So also included in the course are monthly self-love chakra bathing rituals. So you'll be doing these at new moon, which is a way of really giving to the self and filling the cup, which is, essential if we're to be in balance with our feminine energy. But each one I've created so that it's evoking each one of those goddess archetypes. And then at full moon, we do a ritual to activate that particular goddess in the world soul. Okay, so it's being activated in us, but it's also an act of world service to activate it, within the sort of the totem pole of the earth, within the collective consciousness. So you'll also get monthly chakra fact sheets, so you can incorporate that understanding in your daily activities, as well as Shakti yoga instruction and Kundalini active meditations to unleash your goddess essence and really feel alive. We also have a private online forum because it's important you have support for this journey. So you will be journeying this with the other women who have also heeded the call to do this at this time. So there's always a synchronicity in the women in your intake. These will be the women that you have known and journeyed with in other lifetimes in temples and mystery schools. So a lovely way to form friendships. And then, you may be able to travel and visit each other in person. But this is a way of ensuring when, you're being challenged by a particular archetype, that you can share it with people that are on the same page, okay? And this is like a women's circle, if you will, a supportive forum so that you're not alone in this journey. So in terms of what you'll personally gain, increased self-understanding, self-acceptance and assurance, insight into your self-sabotaging patterns so that you can correct them, practical tools and experiential processes, access to a network of other self-aware women, renewed creativity and inspiration, alignment with your highest potential and your life purpose, recognition of your unconscious archetypal issues, validation and empowerment of your feminine gifts, and a really fun and just deeply affirming and unforgettable life experience. So this is just some of the feedback other women have said about this journey that they've taken with me. Anna says, you gave me a new understanding of myself and other women. You have given me a creative explosion. I'll be recommending you to other women who need you in their lives. Alice says, Tanishka's Goddess course has taught me to embrace all aspects of myself and has helped me recognize all these aspects will help me be successful in both my personal and my professional life, resulting in a better sense of balance and well-being, because that is true success, you know, not one thing at the cost of the other. Melinda says, I no longer let others direct and dictate my life. I am in the driver's seat. And Bronwyn says, this course brought me back from a brink of powerlessness I didn't even know that I was balancing on. So if you feel called to do this, there's two options in terms of energy exchange. So normally the course costs $553 for this 7-month course. You can pay it up front and you'll save $100 US. So if you pay in one payment and get it just done, it's $453. But if you need to pay it month by month to budget the payments, then it's $79 a month. And whilst it's in US, that's because it's, you know, the sort of the global currency. Whatever your local currency, it just gets automatically converted when you register. So, but I'm offering a special discount only to everybody who registered for this webinar. So this will not be offered to anybody who didn't register. It's only for you, whether you are watching this live or whether it's via the video recording. You only have until this Friday, okay? So you've got to register by this Friday. If you want the discount, you get another $100 discount. That's in US. So you can save $200 if you enroll today and pay up front. You'll only pay $353 for a 7-month course. So I've tried to keep this as accessible as possible while still honoring the fact that I have a lot of costs, a lot of hidden costs in terms of, you know, administration with business running costs, as well as the costs of all the course materials. But yeah, $353 for a 7-month course. The other option, if you would prefer to journey this with me in person, is to come to my live retreat. Now, I still have places. In the past, it has been a sellout, sold out with women waiting on the waiting list. So if you feel, yes, I want to do this in person, then this is happening September 27 through to October 5. So it's 8 nights, 7 days. So it's an intense journey, literally an intensive, but I am there to personally guide you through. And with 20 years experience in this, I feel absolutely equipped. I've never had anybody experience Kundalini emergence in one of these journeys. So that said, anyone who is, you know, bipolar, manic depressant, then please stick to the month by month online course rather than trying to do it accelerated through 8 days, just to really give yourself that additional time to integrate the energies. But if you're not bipolar, if you're not diagnosed as bipolar or manic depressant, then absolutely you're in safe hands for me to facilitate you through this step-by-step process. Now, we do that in Bali. And what's so amazing, I'll just explain what's so amazing about Bali and why we do it there. Bali is another one of the places on the earth where those meridians of sacred feminine, sacred masculine energy converge. So it's a power spot. And unlike the UK that I was talking about before, it's still got live volcanoes. So the Kundalini energy is very, very active, and it's why it was called the Island of the Gods, okay, and why so many people are drawn to Bali and they don't even know why. So this is where we do it, and this year we're doing it on the volcanic beach near Singaraja at the Gaia Oasis Resort. So, you know, if you're feeling like, God, yes, I need to be there, don't delay. You've only got until this Wednesday. That's the final cutoff of registrations. So what's amazing is it's kind of, you know, this women's circle where women gather from all backgrounds, all nations, all ages. Some come with their mums or their best friends. Some just come on their own because they're like, I know I have to be here. And by the end of it, these women have formed lifelong friendships. Every single group of women that have journeyed this together, they bond at such a deep level because they're journeying through their deepest stuff, as well as seeing their greatest potential reflected in each other. And so they end up being a support group via a Facebook group long after the retreat, for years afterwards. So very special. So what we do is we come together and we journey through these 7 goddesses, one a day, in this intensive. So yes, it's an island paradise, Bali. It's beautiful, it's lush, it's warm, and you know, included in it there's a 90-minute full day spa treatment using all natural local ingredients, and you also get a pedicure or a manicure, so you feel like a goddess on a physical level. But yeah, it's just lush. It's absolutely lush. We do daily trance dance. So, you know, we're embodying each one of these archetypes, and I guide you through that shamanic process. I guide you, you know, in live terms through those guided meditations each day, and through the mantras, the mudras, the yantras. We do art therapy to open up the inner yantra, the mandalas within. We do intensive experiential processes. We do sacred ceremony each day to activate and call forth each goddess. I mentioned the pampering treatments, and as I said, you will make friends for life. So, yep, it's been a sellout event, but we have a place for you. So if you're feeling like you need to be there, register now. So if you're wondering how to do that, oh, okay, there's the prices. This is in US. So again, these get converted to your local currency at the checkout. A single room, if you'd like to have your own space in order to process and have, you know, quality downtime, then that's 1440, because you get, again, $100 discount US by paying in full. Oh, sorry, I was talking about when we used to pay in installments, but because it's so close now, it's just one payment up front. So either a single room, which is more, because obviously you've got a whole room to yourself, or a shared room, which is cheaper. So you will always end up with the woman that you're meant to share with. So chances are you've known each other before, and everyone's deeply respectful of each other's time and space. We have a couple of hours every afternoon just for free time, so that you can journal, you can just hang out and talk, you can go and have your massage, you can swim in the ocean or in the saltwater pool, or just relax and integrate, or go and have a rest, because it's important that we have that yin time, that integration time. So yeah, that does need to be paid by Wednesday, so that the venue has all the money 2 weeks prior to the start date. And if you want to register, you simply go to my website, which is themoonwoman.com, and you will click on live events on the homepage, and that will take you straight to the retreat, the Inner Goddess Bali retreat. Click on that and scroll down and register. Just fill in the form. And then check your promotions folder, your spam box for your confirmation email. If you haven't got a confirmation email, you're not enrolled. So you must make sure that you check that and mark us as a safe sender so that you're getting the updates about what it is you need to bring and the logistics. So yeah, look, that's everything. I'm going to open it up now for some Q&A. If anyone's got any questions that they've jotted down, I'll just stop the screen share. All right. I'm going to just open up the chat so I can see. Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Jen. Jen has put the link. If you click on the chat icon at the bottom of the screen, she's put the link for both the retreat, if you want to book for that, or the online course so you get the discount. So with the online course, if you just go to the online course on my site, you won't get that $200 off. So, and if you want to pay by installments, you still get the $100 discount for having registered for this webinar. Okay. So either way, you're going to save $100 just from showing up or watching the video. But there's the link in the chat to book for either. All right. There is no question too silly, so please don't feel embarrassed if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'd really like to know this and I don't want to make a fool of myself. Ask away, okay? Because chances are someone else is thinking it and just not verbalizing it. So I'd like to invite anyone that's got a question to either type it in your chat or to unmute your microphone. There's a little microphone icon at the bottom of your screen. Just click that and it should unmute your microphone. All right. Anybody got a question? Oh my, I've overwhelmed you with information. Yeah, it's pretty thorough. Oh, well, okay. So no one has a question? No question. This is from Cheryl. Because I missed the beginning. So I'll watch the replay. Good call. Great. Yeah, look, the video recording will just take a little bit to upload, and then Jen, my darling assistant, is going to just, configure that and send it out to you as an email. So please do check your promotions folder, your spam folder for that email. You will receive it today. That's Monday, the 11th of September. Well, that's here in Melbourne, Australia. It's probably the 10th still in some time zones. But you will receive that today. So do check your inbox. Yeah, you'll be able to just click the link and watch the video recording. She has got a question. Will there be a live time with you, or is it all DIY? That's a great question. It is DIY just because it's over 7 months. And what happens is the two courses overlap. So I run it, sort of every equinox. So I would be on call 24/7 all year round if it was, interactive. So, it's a DIY course. So if you want the personal facilitation, then come to the retreat. Jennifer is saying, thanks, Tanishka. Wonderful webinar. I'll be in Greece and Turkey as of Thursday for a month. Wow, that's Goddessville. I'd love to join for the 7-month series. Will I miss too much if I can't do the first month? Wow, that's a great question. You can't miss a month, just because my duty of care to you is that, when working with these energies, we need to give each one its credence, okay? You can't just sort of come in halfway or come in late. So I don't accept late enrollments. You're there on the start date or you have to wait for another intake. So I'm so glad you asked that, because it's a really important question. So look, I don't know if you would consider doing, starting it when you're in Greece and Turkey, because my God, the energies there are absolutely palpable with the goddess mysteries. So, even if you could manage a foot bath, for instance, instead of a full bath at new moon, because it's accessible online, so long as you've got a Wi-Fi connection, you would be able to, and we'll also give you an ebook version of the book in your online materials, so you don't even have to physically pack the book, so that you're not carting a heap of weight around with you. So all you'd need to pack is the first auric spray, and everything else you can access online. So yeah, look, give it some thought. With any uncertainty about this, I encourage you to consult the heart. So don't go into the head about should I, shouldn't I, pros and cons lists, or you'll actually just become more confused. Go into the heart, sit with this, sleep on it, meditate if you're not sure, but put your hands on your heart and get a sense of, am I getting a yes? Like a yes will feel excited. You'll feel your inner light feel larger. You'll feel expansive. You will feel, like yes, yes, yes. Our body can't lie. Whereas if it's a no, you will feel constricted. You will feel a sense of maybe fear, or just a drained feeling, a tiredness, okay? So turn to your energy body for the answer as to whether or not, A, this is the right course for you, and whether you're deciding between doing it online or doing it in person, and whether it's the right time, okay? So ask the inner self rather than, going backwards and forwards in the rational. Cheryl says, how much time do you think is needed for each day or week to really do this right? Another great question. Okay, so look, I would probably give, look, at new moon, you probably need, I'd say, 2 to 3 hours at new moon. And then, you can do an hour at full moon, and then watch and read the articles and read the book sort of in between that, maybe, I don't know, half an hour a day, or, an hour every couple of days. Yeah. So, it's not something where you need to do 4 hours a day or something. So you can just sort of check in at night. It might be only, 10, 15 minutes to read an article. You might want to look at reading one article a night, or a few pages from the book a night, or doing one exercise a night. But yeah, I suppose if you gave yourself half an hour every night, you'd get a lot out of it. You'd get a lot out of it. But it's new moon and full moon. And then I invite you to create an act of beauty and share it on the forum. So like a piece of art. So a couple of hours before, at dark moon. So, the few days before the next new moon. Okay, I don't know if I've answered that succinctly for you. She says, thanks. All right, any other questions? Don't be shy. No? All right. Well, look, if you do think of a question, You mentioned a morning workout. Are there instructions for this, and how is it for people with mobility problems? Great question, Emily. Okay, so you'll receive these as MP3s. Some are guided meditations, so to activate the inner serpents, whether it's just the feminine one or both, or toning to open the chakras. And these can be done in a seated position. So, in terms of mobility, that's not an issue. The active meditations, there is like a dance meditation where, depending on the need, you can just do it as shaking. So you could do that in a seated position as well. So, yeah, I mean, gosh, you could even do it in a lying position if you were just shaking the body. But and if you can't, then visualize that you're shaking the energy out of your body, or that you visualize that you're dancing in your mind's eye, because, like, athletes are taught to visualize a race before they do it. Their muscles record that they have run that race. So you would receive the same benefits in terms of clearing the energy blocks through visualization if you can't physically shake or dance it out. So with those, each one goes for between 5 to 15 minutes. So the idea is that you do one of those processes. There's also like a daily mantra, mudra, and yoga asana. Just do what you can, work at a level that is appropriate for your body. So if there is, for instance, a pose, an asana, a yoga pose that you look at it and go, hell no, that's not going to happen, then do the mudra, which is the hand position, do the mantra. And as you're doing that, I give you video instruction on, how to open that gate. So do what you can, and trust that that's perfect for you, without, comparing it to anyone else's journey. Great question. All right. Any other questions? No? All right then. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the time that you've given to showing up here live, because, not only is it really helpful to have these questions that you've thought of, that I didn't think to cover in the webinar. These are wonderful questions that will help a lot of other people, make that decision as to whether or not this is the right path for them and the right time. But also, it's lovely to be able to speak to women rather than just speak to a camera. So really grateful to those of you that showed up live, and to those of you watching the video recording. Great to share this with you. But if you do want to register for that discount, make sure you do it by this Friday. And if you want to register for the retreat, you've got to do it by this Wednesday. All right. So blessings. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. And I look forward to meeting those of you that are coming to the retreat. And I will jump into the forum and just welcome personally those of you that are joining up for the course. All right. Blessings. You're welcome, Cheryl. Bye, love. Bye, everybody.